Hello, my name is Chris. Uh, First time ever making a video, so bear with me. Um, the story is I played D&D when I was younger, a little bit here and there, just a tiny bit, not very often. Uh, but just a little while back, my nephew came to me and he wanted to play D&D, and I said okay. So I grabbed my books and we started a campaign. Basically, the Essentials kit. I got one of these, and we started the Essentials kit. I didn't have much anything as far as D&D stuff, um, but the funny thing is uh, I kind of got into getting the models. I bought a whole pile of the little $5 models. They weren't expensive, but what I did find was that a lot of the paints that people want to use for the models are more expensive, like the Citadel paints. Um, they're good paints, nothing wrong with them. Very good. A lot of people use them for the Warhammer models. I was buying the cheaper models, so I didn't want to spend that kind of money. What I did find, I went to the hobby stores, and what I did find is some other paints, cheaper. They're about $1. Folk Art. There's a few other brands of this type of paint. They come in the bigger bottles, and you're paying a lot less for them. Um, and the quality of the paint is actually pretty good. Um, Now, a lot of people argue with me, oh, you can do so much better with the Citadel. Citadel's good. And Citadel and some of the other brands are very good. But I don't have that kind of money to spend on models. I work for a living. I work hard for a living, and I don't get paid much. So for me to take up the hobby of painting them, I had to use the other paints. Now, I'm going to kind of show you what some of the models look like with the paint that I use, and you'll see that they're not bad models. I mean, as you can see, this one here, it's a giant, or just a regular giant. I painted him with the Folk Art paint. It it actually looks pretty decent, not bad at all. Um, oh, sorry. I've got some other ones that I did, and what I found out is it's not really the paint so much that makes the difference. It's the technique that you learn. I went on YouTube and I found a few guys that do painting of different models, mostly Warhammer, um, and they had some really neat techniques. And I took their techniques and I put them to the cheaper paints, which the cheaper paints don't work the same way as the more expensive. The more expensive, you put a base coat and you layer it and layer it and layer it. With these paints, I mix the paints prior, and I don't put so much layer as I work on technique. Like, say with this one, using the little grooves are painted with a black paint to make them pop, or I layer the colors mainly because they're not um, they don't work the same way. Now, I did find a few things that you need if you're going to make color models, and one of those things is a magnifying glass because I'll tell you, your eyes will get really sore if you're trying to do these. A technique that I found is I've got this um, stand here that I bought. I probably spent $15 on that. And then I went to Harbor Freight and I found this little eyeglass type kind that fits on your head. And I combined the two. I can look through it with my both goggles on, and it makes painting these really small ones. And let me show you one. This is one I got out of a kit. This is a Dritz that I did. Whoop, excuse me. A Dritz that I did. And see if I can get him in there where you can kind of see him. He came with the little D&D paint kit that I bought because I wanted to try out the D&D paints. And the real small ones, they're really hard to, and I'll get better with the cameras as I learn, but you can kind of see the detail you can get on these figures with the paints. I'm going to turn around. Let's see. This might be a little bit easier for you to see. And a lot of it, and this is using the folk art paint. It's not, but as you can see, you can get a lot of really nice detail, even with the folk art paint that comes in on some of these figurines. Now, I have a collection now because I would buy a couple here and there. I found some on sale one time. Oh, sorry. I found some on sale one time, so I've got a few of special ones. As you can see, I've got a whole section of nothing but zombies and stuff like that, and orcs and barbarians, and there's some other there's like demons up here, and of course I've got my bigger ones. These are ones that I've painted over time. I mean, I bought them a little bit at a time and not really spent very much. I mean, in the long run, I did. In the whole thing, I spent a whole lot more. But from time to time, I would just, I had a couple extra dollars. I'd get a tip at work, something like that. And I would go, like, this is the Bolrog. I just painted this morning. And I kind of got me a little setup here. Let me show you. And of course, a lot of mine is just, I made the stuff myself, or I took stuff that I had around the house. I built this desk out of an old dresser that I cut the center section out so that I could sit at it. And I have all these drawers over here. And of course, I seen this on a YouTube video. Somebody put together like a little thing to hold your paints. And what this is dollar store napkin holders and some lock ties, and I got a little container that I put my paper towels in for when I'm painting to wipe my brushes off and stuff. And of course, I've got a few models still left. I haven't touched. Of course, anybody that's ever done models and model painting know that you're gonna have quite a few models because you're gonna buy them, and some of them you're not gonna get done. Not right away, anyway. So it takes a little time. Now we come over here. I've got my D&D books. Of course, I've got just the basic set and the essentials packet. And my wife bought me this one just a little while back. I don't really have much. I have some of the older books, like I have riffs and stuff like that I played when I was younger. But a few other things that I've done is I've got terrain that I made myself. I looked it up on YouTube, and I've got this little container that I bought from the dollar store for this, but like wall blocks. And basically what this is Jenga pieces that I took paper and glued to it and painted it, and it's like a dungeon wall. Then let's see, I've done a few other things. Let's see here. sorry, I need to set this down for just a second. Set that down for just a second. I'm sorry, I'm a horrible video. First time. Forgive me. I've seen things like this. Dungeon Wall. This is basically just pieces of... it's just a little... couple of popsicle sticks glued together. Makes a perfect dungeon wall. And I did Jenga parts that I just painted brown for a house. There's a few other things I did. I made some wagons. And I've got some little beast of burden here that's tangled up. There we go. And they just kind of slide in there just like that. And I made them out of rope. And I got a little wagon. I got some horses and stuff I painted in here. Some outside tents. That's just a folded piece of cardstock. But I did all this for D&D, and since I've done all this, I haven't really played, unfortunately. We played the one time, and we just haven't had the time. That's the biggest thing with games like this, D&D, is getting everybody together. Of course, anybody that's D&D knows this. Now, I heard all the controversy about, the new OG and all that stuff, but I don't sell D&D stuff, so it doesn't matter. All I want to do is go over a few basic things with you today. We're going to talk about technique with the cheaper paints as opposed to your that's better. As opposed to your more expensive paints. I noticed that the more expensive paints, they're kind of thinner and you do it with layers. The first most important thing that you can do, and this is for people that don't want to spend a big pile of money, your hobby shouldn't require you to pay out $500 all the time. That's the one reason why I'm not into Warhammer. Too expensive for me. I would love to play it. I would love to paint the Warhammer models. They're beautiful. But I would rather spend $5 on one of these and do some good painting, take my razor and fix the lines where the mold is, stuff like that. But you don't run into as bad in the more expensive, and you can make your own little special models. That's great. But the little cheaper ones, let's see, what's the brand that I usually get? I've gotten some Whiz Kids that's from Critical Role. Let's see. Then Whiz Kids is the most common one I use. They're affordable. If you get the small stuff, it's like $5 at your hobby store. If you get the more expensive ones, they're like the big one, like this one here, cost me $14.99. I mean, really, for a good size model, and it's got a lot of good detail. They're well made for what you're going to use them for, especially if you're playing D&D with them. Even if you're not playing D&D with them, I haven't played D&D with any of these, but I love painting them. You can do your own color scheme. You don't have to stick with what you see in the D&D book. I like to a point, but you can kind of change things. You can kind of make them your own. Now, the first thing you want to have if you're going to start painting and you're going to do it cheap, I've got this. It's a lid to a dollar store Tupperware type dish. It's just a flat lid like this. You want to have that. I also get some wax paper. Ain't $2, $3, something like that for a whole box. I've that same one I've used to paint all the models I got on my wall. Just one box of wax paper. So it'll last you a long time. What you do is you cut it in little sheets the size of your small little Tupperware. Then you want to have some paper towels. Now, this is probably the most expensive thing that you'll get for your what I call a wet palette. I know it isn't exactly a wet palette, and I don't have high dollar wet palettes. I do the cheap. And what I do is here, let me see if I can get you a little bit better where you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay. All right. As you can see, I got my little Tupperware dish here. And what I do is I just take my little paper towel and fold it over just like that. And then I have a little cup of water over here, and I just take and dribble a little water in that area to kind of wet the paper towel and push it into position. Then I take this piece of wax paper and stick it over the top. Now, this is probably total. You may spend for a long time to work with this. One roll of paper towels, a $1, maybe $2 for the Tupperware lid, and you may be able to get one of these cheap or have one left in your house that you can just use. You just want a flat little one just like that. And the wax paper, you may spend $10 at the most. That's what I believe in. Why spend $40 on a wet palette when you can make your own for $10? I mean, seriously. I know that may make some people mad. They may, but not me. Something that you will want to spend a little bit of money on is your brushes. Now, I've went to Hobby Lobby, places like that. They have a lot of really good brushes. The ones that I've found that's the best is if you go into the area where they do in Hobby Lobby where you paint model cars and build models and stuff like that. They have some really good brushes that I like that aren't. What you'll pay is about what you would pay for one brush if you buy a Citadel or the more expensive ones. Let's see if I can find one here. Most of these are really cheap ones. When I first started, when they were on sale, 40-50% off at Hobby Lobby, that's when I bought them. That's these brushes. Now, they wear down after a while. There's no real name brand on these. I'll be honest. They're just Hobby Lobby cheap ones. I'm not bragging up Hobby Lobby. I'm sure you can go to another hobby store and get them cheap. But I like using the zeros and the 3s. And I've got one in here. I think that's a 2 or something like that. And there's a 1. Now, it just depends on what you want to do and what kind of model you're painting, what kind of brush you're going to use. Say you want to just put an eye on a really small figure like this. Like I've colored her eyes blue. I don't know if you can see it. See if I can get it to zoom in on it. You can kind of see it. A little bit. If you want to do that, you want a brush that's what they call a spotter. It's got real short bristle, and it's real firm. And you're just dotting. That's what you use a brush like this for, is to just dot. Now, if you want to paint, You want to have a brush that's got some area on the sides. I've found that if I want to do a large area, I may even use a big brush like this. Very rarely, usually when I'm painting something that's this big. If it's a little small one, like say this girl right here, yeah, this big brush, you would cover the whole thing in one swipe, and it would look horrible. It tends to look horrible. Now, I will say, I've learned as I've went, and watching a few videos, I'll give a shout out to Ninjo. I think that's his name. What's his name? Oh, forgive me. But when I first started, this was the best I could do. It's not bad, but if you look at the difference between that and, say, one of my more recents, where I've got a lot more detail and I was able to kind of play with it and make it my own, I would say this is a lot better than this with the coat of paint. This one kind of, the look is smudged with how thick I did the paint. You didn't have any detail. Now, with the cheaper paints, they are thicker. So that's why we use this. Because, let me grab a paint. I'll show you. First of all, with these, you gotta beat them on the table. Because they don't tend to come out very easy. Thing you got to remember, too, you're painting small models. So when you go to squeeze it, you're just putting just a dab. See, like that? You're not using a whole pile of paint. I guess that's why the Citadels and stuff is easy. Okay, so you see that this is very thick. So what you want to have is you want to have a cup of water. Now, you can use just a cup, basically. You can use just a cup for water. You want to dip your brush in the water. Let me see if I can move stuff around here. Now, there is something that I bought, and I got it from Dollar Tree. It's just a little paint cup. It's wonderful. I love these. It's got a little lip. Let's see if I can help you see it. It's got a little lip where you can wash your brush off. You can set a brush on top of it if you don't want to use it right then. There's a few things you can do with it, and I love it. So let's say I wanted to paint something. The first thing I'm going to do with the cheaper paints is I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to dip it in the water. Okay? Then I'm going to dip it in the paint and give it a little wick. Make sure you don't have the excess water on it. And then you would go to paint something. Let me see if I got something I can kind of show you. Use the wrong color. But I like to keep a paper towel also next to me, because when you go to clean your brush off, you would dip it again, and you would just kind of take your brush and kind of do it like that, dip it, you get all the paint off of it, then you can dip into another paint as you want. And your brush kind of stays wet, ready to go. Get one of my models and I'll go ahead and start. Now, there are a few things that I've found with these models. If you had to hold it like this, it's horrible. You would have a hard time. It's not steady. So what I did is I went and bought me a wood dowel, a little small one. I spent $3. Then I got me, for $2, I bought me a big old roll of this 3M double sticky tape. Cheap. And I stick a little piece there. And so when I get ready to paint a model, I can stick it down on it just like that. And then you've got a little control when you're going to paint. You can move it around. You can put it more in the light. Now you'll want to have a light over you. I had an old lamp that clips to a table, and I took a drawer and built me a little shelf here, and then for my paints, to hold paints. And here, let me show you what that looks like so that you can kind of see. I built me a kind of a little shelf right there, and then my lamp just clamps to it and sits over my table so that I can kind of see what I'm doing. So we have this small little model here. Now I did some work on him already because I had a character that I created, and I picked out this model, but he had a sword and a hammer, and my character doesn't carry a sword and a hammer. So I cut the sword out with a X-Acto knife, which is important to have if you're doing model painting. Just a little cheap one. I bought at the Dollar Tree, I think for $1. But then you want to look at your thing and figure out what colors that you want to use. Once you've got this kind of set up, I mean, yeah, it costs a little more money than it ain't dirt cheap, but it's over time that I've done this. I had the wood dowel and bought the $5 little figurines, and I caught some on sale, and I got some of these because they were trying to get rid of them out of the comic book store. I got them for like 2 for the price of 1 pack. And usually when you buy these little small ones for $5, you get 2 figurines to paint. Even if you just use them to paint, it's fun. I enjoy it. But you can also use them for D&D, which is awesome too. So going back to the painting, I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent. I want to do this guy's hammer. Let's start with that. So I've got some folk art paint, medium gray. I decided to do his hammer in my own color. I don't want it medium gray. Let me squeeze a little, get a dab of medium gray. But I want it to kind of look like it's metal. So I found some of these metallic paints. These paints, the most expensive I've seen, these folk arts, was like $2 and something a paint. So you could go in the store and say, okay, my model's going to have this paint, this paint, this paint, and this paint. Pick out any color you want. There's 50 million types, especially if you go into Hobby Lobby. And then on top of that, you can mix paints. Now, see, I put the sterling silver and the medium gray together, and I'll kind of let you see on my palette. I just squeezed them together, okay? So I'm going to grab one of my fat brushes like this, and I'm just going to take my little fat brush and smear them together really good. And once it looks like they've kind of merged into one color, I'm going to clean my brush off and get that. Now, I may be doing this wrong for a lot of people. I mean, like, oh, he doesn't know anything about painting. I'm not really here to teach you about painting. I'm just showing you how I do it. Do it however works for you. So let me see if I can find a brush I can use. Now, my setup for filming is kind of horrible. I'm going to be honest with you, because I haven't this is the first time I've ever done this. But so it's not going to be very photogenic, but I'm not photogenic, so bear with me. Okay, let's bring this guy in here. Okay, so I want to paint his hammer. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wet my brush a little bit and do it a light wiping on my paper towel. Then I'm going to dip into my paint just a little bit. You only want, depending on how you're painting, especially these really small ones, you just want a little bit of paint on your brush. You don't want it to cover the entire brush. Then I'm going to pull my lens down so that I can see this. And bear with me if you can't see it, I'm sorry. Then you want to do a light swipe. You're not trying to draw a picture or anything like that. You will have to re-dip several times. But that'll be the thing. You can kind of, and you want to know where you want to put paint. Sometimes you want it to go all the way across, but other times you don't want it in certain areas. Now, I'm going to tell you, with this paint, you can paint over it. Like if you get a little bit somewhere, and I tend to, because I'm not the best painter in the world, get it in other sections of the paint, of the model. Like I'll accidentally hit a hand, and the hand will have gray on it instead of the color that I want. And so the trick is you kind of layer it. You put a light layer, then you let it dry a little bit, and you put another layer, and it just kind of thickens over it. And then you don't see the brush, like you don't want to see the brush strokes when you're done on everything. Now, some models, you want the brush strokes to be visible because that's how you give the texture on the item. Now, as you can see, I don't know if you can see that in my camera, but now it's kind of a different gray than what it originally was. It was a lighter gray. Now it's kind of a shiny gray hammer that he's got in his hand. Now, as you can see, this model, this is one of those cheap models, but it's got a lot of detail. So you'll do a lot of work on it. Now, I'm just going to kind of set it to the side because I'm not going to paint the whole model. Don't have time for that. Not right now, and I'm not going to film it. We're already 30 minutes into the video, and all I've done is yak. But I do have another one that my nephew did, and I kind of showed him my techniques, and he painted with other. But this is the other dwarf that came in my set. He did all this painting. He did a very good job for his first time painting a figurine. So it's not hard. It's not as hard as you would think. If you have the magnifying glasses where you can actually see, you have the lighting, you have the small brushes that can kind of get into the tight areas. You have a wet palette like this where you can just lay out your colors, and you don't have to sit there and dip into a bottle and try to dilute it down and constantly, and you can just wet your brush a little bit, put a little paint on it, and then paint. You can do as good a job as this easily. As you get better, and you can see it a little better with the bigger models, you can see the detail sticks out a little bit better than all the little chains and stuff this guy's got on him. You can kind of see how I did the wings, where I just did a base coat and then I really wet my black and kind of made it look like leathery wings. Or on this girl, the bigger ones just show it a lot better, show the technique a lot better. And these are cheap paints. These aren't Now, you may not think these are good models, and if you don't, put in the comments. Hey, I don't care. They're good enough for me. I enjoy it. It's relaxing. I get my cup of coffee on the weekends, stick one of these models on my table, throw some paint my way, do a little bit of painting. It's relaxing. I enjoy it. And I would like to let other people that don't have a pile of money to waste on models, which I don't. Honestly, I live paycheck to paycheck, poor person. I'm not sponsored. I don't have a ton of extra models. I just enjoy doing it. And that's what it's all about. It's not about, I enjoy feeling accomplished in what I do because I have gotten better. And the more you paint, the more better you'll get. Don't be discouraged if you get a model and you completely ruin it, you completely glob paint all over it, or your brush strokes are all over the place, or something. If you're not spending a big pile of money, it's not as big of an issue. I mean, you can throw away a model. If I messed up this $14 model, I've lost $14 is all I've lost. If I mess up one of these $5 models, I've lost $5. I mean, yeah, that can add up if you do a lot of it, but practice makes perfect. So don't ever be discouraged in what you do. I've found that I can do anything that I put my mind to as long as I put in effort and I want to do it. It comes with work. It comes with life. If you want a marriage to work, you've got to work at it. If you want a painting job on one of these to turn out pretty, beautiful, the way you want it, it takes work. It's not going to happen overnight. I've been doing painting now for almost a year. So the amount of models that I've collected just in a year. And most of the time it's been just models that's just sitting there. I have a comic book shop that I enjoy, Comic Emporium, on 231. It's the gentleman that owns that store. I'm gonna give a shout out to because he deserves it. He's a really nice guy. All the prices are comparable to anywhere else. If you have any questions, he answers them. They offer a lot of just fun play Magic on. That's another thing I like to do. They play Magic on Friday nights. They like to have D&D sessions on Sundays. I've never been to one, but he usually has a pretty good crowd there. But it's just how he treats you when you come in the store is what makes it very, very good place to go. It's the closest one to my house too. That doesn't hurt. But anyway, back to let's finish what I was saying. When you're done with this, you're done with your paint. After you've finished painting whatever you're going to paint, you can just roll this sucker up, throw it in the trash. I usually take my where I wash my thing off, I'll take my little towel, dry out this thing, and I throw it in my drawer for next time. And then you just pour out, of course, this mess after you've cleaned your brushes off several times. And you're not really losing a lot of money with the paint. I'm going to tell you right now, I've bought a whole pile of different colors of paint. There's a whole pile over here. I've got a whole pile over here. I bought some other stuff, some brush cleaner. And as you can see, there's even these little multi-surface ones I bought from Walmart's. I don't really like them for, but they're good for making my little terrain and stuff like that. I used them for that. They're good for that. I found that Folk Art was probably the best one that I ran into, but there are some other ones that are equivalent or better. Let's see here. So, to end for now, since this is my first video, and all you've done is hear me talk mostly, not learned anything, I'm going to end it for now. I want to give a shout out to Miranda Watkins, my wife, for encouraging me to post my first video. She's the reason that you listened to this gentleman. She's the reason that I can do this kind of stuff, because she encourages me. That's important, to have someone that appreciates you. That was Bruno, sorry. To have someone that appreciates you and appreciates what you do is very important. So appreciate somebody else's talents. When somebody else shows you something that they've made, no matter how bad you really think it looks, you might say, oh, that's horrible. That's not as good as such and such, or that's not good as this one. Show that person encouragement, because they can go from being horrible at it to being good at it if they're encouraged to make that leap. It's important to encourage your husband, your wife. That's what I'm going to say and end. Be somebody's encouragement today. If it has to be yourself, encourage yourself. But be somebody's encouragement, because if you encourage people to do stuff that they don't think they can do but they want to do, they might show you something amazing. Goodbye, and have a great day.